2004. Following lessons learned in Desert Storm, the Abrams and Manio, the U.S. combat vehicles used in the conflict, were fitted with combat identification panels to reduce friendly fire incidents. These were fitted on the sides and rear of the turret, with flat panels equipped with a four-cornered box image on either side of the turret front. Some Abrams tanks were also fitted with a secondary storage bin on the back of the existing bustle rack on the rear of the turret, referred to as a bustle rack extension, to enable the crew to carry more supplies and personal belongings. Several Abrams tanks that were irrecoverable due to loss of mobility or other circumstances were destroyed by friendly forces, usually by other Abrams tanks, to prevent their capture. 40. Some Abrams tanks were disabled by Iraqi infantrymen in ambushes during the invasion. Some troops employed short-range anti-tank rockets and fired at the tracks, rear and top. Other tanks were put out of action by engine fires when flammable fuel stored externally in turret racks was hit by small arms fire and spilled into the engine compartment. 41. 42. By March 2005, approximately 80 Abrams tanks were forced out of action by enemy attacks. Winking sad smiley. 43. 63 were shipped back to the U.S. for repairs, while 17 were damaged beyond repair. 44, with 3 of them at the beginning of 2003. 45. Vulnerabilities exposed during urban combat in the Iraq War were addressed with the Tank Urban Survival Kit, Tusk, modifications, including armor upgrades and a gun shield, issued to some M1 Abrams tanks. It added protection in the rear and side of the tank and improved fighting ability and survivability in urban environments. 47. By December 2006, more than 530 Abrams tanks had been shipped back to the U.S. for repairs. 48. AM-102 Abrams with prototype tank urban survival kit, armor upgrade equipment and common remotely operated weapons station, CROWS. 46, with a .50 caliber machine gun at the commander station in May 2008. It was reported that a US M1 tank had also been damaged in Iraq by insurgent fire of a Soviet-made RPG-29 Vampir, which uses a tandem charge high-explosive anti-tank warhead to penetrate explosive reactive armor, ERA, as well as composite armor behind it. 49. The U.S. considered the RPG-29 a high threat to armor and refused to allow the newly formed Iraqi army to buy it, fearing that it would fall into the insurgents' hands. 50. Iraqi Army Service. A record of damaged and destroyed M101M Abrams tanks of Iraqi Army at Camp Taja between 2010 and 2012. The U.S. supplied 140 refurbished M101 Abrams tanks to Iraq. In mid-2014, they saw action when the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant launched the June 2014 Northern Iraq Offensive. During 3 months, about one-third of Iraqi Army's M1 tanks had been damaged or destroyed by ISIL and some were captured by opposing forces. By December 2014, the Iraqi Army only had about 40 operational Abrams left. That month, the U.S. Department of State approved the sale of another 175 Abrams to Iraq. 51, 52, 53, Iranian-backed Iraqi Shiite Kataib Hezbollah brigades, were reported to operate M1 Abrams, and released publicity showing the tanks being transported by trucks to take part in the Battle of Mosul. It is not known whether the tanks were captured from ISIS, seized from Iraq's military, or handed over. 54. One Iraqi-operated Abrams has been nicknamed the Beast after it became the lone working tank when taking back the town of Hait in April 2016. destroying enemy fighting positions and IED emplacements. 55. In October 2017, Abrams were used by the Iraqi Security Forces and the Popular Mobilization Forces, also called al-Hashd al-Shabi, in assaults against the Kurdistan regional government. Peshmerga in the town of Orchan Kapri, also called Pad. It was claimed by Kurdish commanders that at least one Abrams was destroyed by the Peshmerga. 56. War in Afghanistan. Tanks may have limited utility in Afghanistan due to the mountainous terrain, although Canada and Denmark deployed Leopard 1 and 2 MBTs that were specially modified to operate in the relatively flat and arid conditions of southwestern Afghanistan. In late 2010, at the request of Regional Command Southwest, the U.S. Marine Corps deployed a small detachment of 14 M101 Abrams tanks from Delta Company, 1 ST Tank Battalion, 1st Marine Division, Forward, 57, to southern Afghanistan in support of operations in Helmand and Kandahar provinces. 58. 2015 Yemen Civil War. After the start of the Saudi Arabian intervention in Yemen during the 2015 Yemeni civil war, Saudi Arabian M102 MBTs were deployed near the Saudi Arabian /Yemeni border. In August 2016, the U.S. approved a deal to sell up to 153 more Abrams tanks to Saudi Arabia, including 20 battle damage replacements, suggesting that some Saudi Arabian Abrams had been destroyed or severely damaged in combat in Yemen. 59, 60, 61, 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine. On the 24th of January, 2023, U.S. President Joe Biden said that the U.S. would send 31 M1 Abrams tanks to Ukraine. 62. President Biden said that the sending of tanks was intended to enhance the Ukraine's capacity to defend its territory and achieve its strategic objectives and was not an offensive threat to Russia. 63. On the 25th of January, 2023, U.S. President Biden approved the provision of 31 Abrams tanks to Ukraine as part of a larger support package. 64. Pentagon spokesperson Sabrina Singh specified that the tanks would be the M102 variant, and as they were not available in excess in U.S. stocks, they would be purchased through Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, USAI. 65. Production shutdown. The U.S. Army planned to end production at the Lima Army Tank Plant from 2013 to 2016 in an effort to save over $1 billion. It would be restarted in 2017 to upgrade existing tanks. General Dynamics Land Systems, GDLS, which operates the factory, opposed the move, arguing that suspension of operations would increase long-term costs and reduce flexibility. 66, 67. Specifically, GDLS estimated that closing the plant would cost $380 million and restarting production would cost $1.3 billion. 68. By August 2013, Congress had allocated $181 million for buying parts and upgrading Abrams systems to mitigate industrial base risks and sustain development and production capability. Congress and General Dynamics were criticized for redirecting money to keep production lines open and accused of forcing the Army to buy tanks it didn't need. General Dynamics asserted that a 4-year shutdown would cost $1.6 billion to reopen the line, depending on the length of the shutdown, whether machinery would be kept operating, and whether the plant's components would be completely removed. 69. They contended that the move was to upgrade Army National Guard units to expand a pure fleet and maintain production of identified irreplaceable subcomponents. A prolonged shutdown could cause the makers to lose their ability to produce them, and foreign tank sales were not guaranteed to keep production lines open. There is still risk of production gaps even with production extended through 2015. With funds awarded before recapitalization is needed, budgetary pressures may push planned new upgrades for the Abrams from 2017 to 2019. 69. In December 2014, Congress again allocated $120 million, against the wishes of the Army, for Abrams upgrades including improving gas mileage by integrating an auxiliary power unit, APU, to decrease idle time fuel consumption and upgrading the tank's sights and sensors. 70. In late 2016, tank production and refurbishment had fallen to a rate of 1 per month, with fewer than 100 workers on site. In 2017, the Trump administration ordered military production to increase, including Abrams production and employment. In 2018, it was reported that the Army had ordered 135 tanks rebuilt to new standards, with employment at over 500 workers and expected to rise to 1,000. 71. Future plans. During the 1980s and 1990s, the Block 3 main battle tank from the Armored Systems Modernization (ASM) program was expected to succeed the M1 Abrams family in the 1990s. The design had an unmanned turret with a 140mm main gun, as well as improved protection. The end of Cold War hostilities caused the end of the program. The tracked M8 armored gun system was conceived as a possible supplement for the Abrams in U.S. service for low-intensity conflict in the early 1990s. Prototypes were made but the program was cancelled. The 8-wheeled M1128 mobile gun system was designed to supplement the Abrams in U.S. service for low-intensity conflicts. 72. It has been introduced into service and serves with Stryker brigades. The Future Combat Systems XM1202 mounted combat system was to replace the Abrams in U.S. Army service and was in development when funding for the program was cut from the DOT's budget in 2010. 73. Engineering Change Proposal 1 is a two-part upgrade process. ECP-1 adds space, weight, and power improvements and active protection against improvised explosive devices. 9 ECP-1 prototypes have been produced as of October 2014. ECP-1B, which will begin development in 2015, may include sensor upgrades and the convergence of several tank round capabilities into a multi-purpose round. 74. In 2011 the Army anticipated that the remaining M1A1 fleet will remain in U.S. service until at least 2021 and the M1A2 to beyond 2050. 75. The United States Army National Guard will continue using M1A1s for a lengthier, undetermined period. It took until 1997 for the M60A3 to be retired by the last National Guard units, as opposed to the active duty U.S. Army, which had fully transitioned to the M1 by the end of 1990. As of 2020, the Marine Corps has been pursuing a force restructuring plan named Force Design 2030. Under this program, all U.S. Marine tank battalions were deactivated and its M1A1 tanks transferred to the Army by the end of 2021. 76. 77. In the future, any need the Marine Corps encounters for heavy armor will be met by the U.S. Army. The U.S. Army is evaluating a replacement for the M1 Abrams as part of the Next Generation Combat Vehicle, NGCV, program, notionally known as the Decisive Lethality Platform, DLP. 78. Design. Countermeasures. Camouflage. M1A1 Abrams earlier U.S. military vehicles, used from World War I through the Vietnam War, used a scheme of olive drab, often with large white esters. prototypes, early production M1, 105mm gun, and M1 models switched to a flat forest green paint scheme. The large white insignia stars have also transitioned to much smaller black markings. Some units painted their M1s with the older Mobility Equipment Research and Design Command, MERDC, four-color paint scheme, but the turn-in requirements for these tanks required repainting them to overall forest green. Therefore, even though a large number of the base model M1s were camouflaged in the field, few or none exist today. US M101s during the full legal 1998 training exercises in South Korea, with their factory single green paint scheme M101 in the Australian Army's disruptive pattern camouflage, used 4 vehicles and material M101s came from the factory with the NATO 3-color camouflage black /med green /dark brown chemical agent resistant coating, CARC, paint jobs. Today, M101s are given the NATO3 color paint job during rebuilds. M1s and M101s deployed to Operation Desert Storm were hastily painted desert tan. Some, but not all, of these tanks were repainted to their authorized paint scheme. M102s built for Middle Eastern countries were painted in desert tan. Replacement parts, rotor wheels, armor skirt panels, drive sprockets, etc., are painted olive green, which can sometimes lead to vehicles with a patchwork of green and desert tan parts. Australian M101s were desert tan when delivered but have undergone a transition to the Australian Army Vehicle Standard Disruptive Pattern Camouflage, a scheme that consists of black olive drab, and brown. 7980. The U.S. Army can equip its Abrams tanks with the Saab Barracuda camouflage system, which provides concealment against visual, infrared, thermal infrared, and broadband radar detection. Concealment. The turret is fitted with 2 6-barreled M250 smoke grenade launchers. USMC M101s used an 8-barreled version, with 1 E on each side. When deployed, the grenades airburst, creating a thick smoke that blocks both visual and thermal imaging. The engine is also equipped with a smoke generator that is triggered by the driver. When activated, fuel is sprayed into the HO turbine exhaust, creating the thick smoke. Due to a risk of fires, however, this system is sometimes disabled. Armor. Tankers drive an M101 Abrams through the Taunus Mountains north of Frankfurt during exercise Ready Crucible in February 2005. In July 1973, representatives from Chrysler and General Motors traveled to the United Kingdom, and were escorted by personnel from the Ballistic Research Laboratory and XM1 project manager Major General Robert J. Barrett to witness the progress of British-developed Cavorm armour. 81. They observed the manufacturing processes required for the production of Cavorm armor, which was an arrangement of metal plates, ceramic blocks and open space. Winking sad smiley 28, and saw a proposed design for a new British vehicle utilizing it. Heat and sabot rounds enter the beginning layers of armor but are unable to penetrate the crew compartment. Ceramics have the ability to absorb a great deal of heat, and can blunt physical blows by cracking and deflecting the force. The remaining hot gases and metal shrapnel spread out or settle in empty air pockets. Both contractors re-evaluated their proposed armor configurations based upon the newly obtained data. 82. U.S. Marines with the 2nd Tank Battalion, 2nd Marine Division advance on their eastern objective defended by opposing Spanish forces during exercise Trident Juncture 18 near Dorholen, Norway November 3, 2018. This led to major changes in the General Motors XM1, the most prominent of which is the...
Yes, I need a small break to bathroom. This small break is 4 p.m. The video splits in like 10 seconds. I will take a small break and charge the camcorder a little bit